9,000. 9,000. 9,000. I revved the 9,000. What's up, bro? I only revved the 6,800. The Honda S2000. It's like a Miata, but for men. What is up, guys? This is my 2003 AP1 Honda S2000. Every Miata owner's wet dream car, including my own. I wanted one of these stupid things more than anything back in the day, but I was too much of a broke in my early 20s to afford one, so I wound up with an NB Miata instead. But let me tell you, nothing quite satisfies like the real thing. This car is what an exotic Miata should be. The engine screams. The chassis is very rigid. It has much more masculine, manly looks to it. It's a car that you don't really feel like a dweeb driving around in, or a hairdresser. But what I love about the car is that Honda built this thing to be just a raw, zero f***s given, like no apologies prototype race car that somehow like made it through all the safety nonsense and like into the hands of the public. It was a proper widowmaker when this thing came out in the year 2000. It was a dangerous car to drive at the limit, and it punished knucklehead drivers. And that's what drew me to the car so much. I will admit, I did own another AP1 S2000 when I was 22, 23. I couldn't really afford it, but I bought one anyways, and I crashed it the same day. So I could tell you firsthand that these cars are quite dangerous. But that was a turning point in my life as a driver. It was such a blow to my ego and really just like defeated me. I almost gave up on cars altogether, but it was because of that incident that I like just got this like burning, unquenchable desire to master rear-wheel drive sports cars. So it paved the way for me getting into racing karts, which led to doing open track days, and then SCCA racing and Spec Miata and all the other form of motorsports I've participated in ever since. But I tell a lot of people getting into this that if you can learn how to drive an S2000 properly at the limit and keep it there, you can drive just about anything. And I still kind of hold true to that, because the S2000 is just one of those cars that you kind of have to be on top of your game to like really tame it. So for this car, the build philosophy for it was to keep it a raw, engaging, exhilarating, exciting car. The stock AP1 S2000 has engine code F20C, which is a 2-liter. It's naturally aspirated, makes 240 crank horsepower out of the box, which is 120 horsepower per liter. At the time of its introduction, that was the most horsepower per liter out of a naturally aspirated engine up until 2011 when Ferrari came out with the 458 Italia. So to me, it was important to keep the motor true to its form and keep it naturally aspirated. So I wanted to further develop the build a little bit. The compression is up about a point on the motor, so it's close to 12-to-1 now, via a little bit of head skimming and a thinner head gasket made by Spoon Sports. The drivetrain is all upgraded with titanium Supertech components. It has Supertech stiffer valve springs in it, a set of Brian Crower Stage 2 cams. The intake manifold is ported to match a 70mm throttle body. The header is a Jay's Racing header. The exhaust is a full 70 millimeter all the way out to the back. It's a custom exhaust that I put together myself. The car is tuned on a Haltech Platinum Pro plug-and-play ECU. In its current trim, it made 232 wheel horsepower, STD corrected factor on a DynoJet, and torque was 148 pound-feet, which is, it doesn't sound like a lot versus the money that went into it, but versus stock, it's definitely significantly faster. And it's a very, very exciting car. I think this is more than enough power to feel entertained when you're attacking your favorite back road or ripping it on a racetrack. When you're throwing curves and stuff into the equation, the S2000 is definitely not a car that disappoints. Exterior mods for the car, probably the most Muse S2000 that I've ever encountered was made by a Japanese tuning company called Muse, and they had a lot of their cars appear on the Hot Version Best Motoring Toge series, and it was their original R1 car, which was orange, and it was very similar to this build philosophy, taking weight out where you can, but still retaining things like your factory radio and air conditioning, which this car still has. Right now in its current trim, it weighs about 2,640 pounds, which is a decent amount lighter than stock, and it's definitely something that you notice, but it still retains all those things like I said. I do run an Muse R1 front bumper to stay true to that car. Wheel selection is a set of Advent RG2s, which are one of my all-time favorite wheels, and the sizing that Advent released, they made a set that was like specific for S2000 fitment, which is 17 by 8.5 in the rear and 17 by 7.5 in the front. I still utilize a wheel and tire stagger, just like the OEM setup does, but it is shrunk a little bit to kind of make the car a little bit more rotate happy. Square setups are cool, but like the AP1 is already very rotate happy, so like just a reduced stagger works really well for me for the type of driving that I like to do with it. A Mugen style double carbon hardtop, so the inside is all carbon, has a set of Recaro Speed seats in it, and just a lot of the little signature touches that I like to add to my builds. You'll see a lot of green incorporated throughout it because it's my favorite color, but without like blatantly painting anything green. I'm at this point in my life now where I did the trying to set fastest times for everything and the all-out grip. That was more during my racing days. I'm retired now. I don't care about winning races. I really just care about the drive and making sure that the car is a fun experience overall. So being that the S2000 is a little bit less forgiving in its handling characteristics, one of the big areas of emphasis that I put on was the suspension tuning. And getting this car out to Lime Rock this year for the first time, dialed into where it's at, plus the motor build and everything else and the weight taken out of it, I think it's pretty damn near close to being where I want it. Like all things in life, there's always more room for improvement and further development. But overall, I love the balance of the car. It's a car that you can put down some fast laps and drive it tidy if you want to. Obviously, I'm sacrificing a little bit all-out speed, but that sacrifice allows me to be playful with the car and pitch it sideways into like a fast drift. The S2000 doesn't like big angle because it wants to spin out like pretty quickly, but you can get enough angle to do these really sweet like fast drifts on track that makes it like super fun and super engaging to drive. And overall, I'm really happy with like where the car's set up right now. Aside from its pure, raw, driver-focused interior and just overall presentation, my absolute favorite thing about the Honda S2000 is the motor. It's literally one of the closest production engines to ever come out of any manufacturer that's like very similar to like a motorcycle and its characteristics. with all the lightweight internals and drivetrain components. This has a 7-pound flywheel attached to it. The motor's very, very rev happy. It's like super angry, super frantic, super exciting as you wind it out to 9,000 RPMs. The S2000 gearbox is by far one of the best, if not the best, manual transmission I've ever felt in a car. So having those elements all combined just like really make this just such an awesome overall like entertaining package, and it still keeps you on your toes because you're like just one mistake away from winding up into a guardrail. So the S2000 is just, it's just an overall package that like never ceases to leave me feeling bored. If there was ever a wet dream car for every dildo Miata owner, it was this, including myself. Yes, I'm calling myself a dildo. Do it in front of here. I'm gonna say, I only ran the 68.